Let's start using the mutation here, and what we want to do is, if you follow the one on their own page, of course, they are stating what they are and so on and so on, and they're like using store and then commit to send the information. So if you're familiar with GitHub and things like this and Git, you know what commit is. So we're committing the mutation or the data or whatever we're doing, the change we create in Git, right? So what we want to do is, other than actually just doing the standard commit, we want to create a mutation like this one. We're going to give it a name, and then it accepts the state here, but we want to send something along with it because we're sending something from our component to our store. So we're sending information. So we need to do a commit with a payload like this one down here. So that's the one we're going to follow to create it. So we're going to create a mutation, add a name, add a state, and add whatever we want to send in. So the name of the payload, in our case, that will be our basket that's we're going to send in, right? And then this will be in our store, and this will be sort of what we have in our, what's it called, the menu.vue file. So we have a store and commit, and then the name of the mutation we're creating, and then sending the payload with it. So let's start creating our, in our menu here, and then wait with the store mutation creation. Store mutation creation, woohoo! So here, let's say this if from here to here. Let's just mark this, so the entire if statement, remember, don't end it here, but just before. We're just going to do a quick, let's do a block quote, because we want to move the logic here from our component and into our, that was the other one, the store instead. So that controls how the data is. So again, the single source of truth, we change thing in the store, that's where we want to have the logic as well. Alright, so we're just going to copy this part here because we still want to use this. And after we have this, we're going to set up like they have here. So we're going to connect to the store and then use the commit for this one, and then call our mutation name and then send the payload. So let's do this, and we do this with this dot store like before. Oops, let's remember to have the $sign there, and then we use the commit. And inside this, we're going to use string to indicate the name, and let's call this add basket items. You can name it something else if that makes sense to you. And the payload we want to send is, for now, this basket, but we need to change this a little bit. But for now, for coherency for what we did before, this is the payload we want to send, right? The basket's items. That's cool. So let's end this, and I'm just going to do a console log so we can check later on what actually happens. So in here, I'm just going to do this stuff, payload, just so we know what happens here. And then we're going to do this basket so we can see what it actually sends here. Now if we do a save and we go back to the browser and we do a refresh and click, up here we'll of course get some kind of an error, but that I don't care about that right now. What I want to see here is we can actually see that we are sending two things, right? We're sending both, we're sending a payload, but we're sending two different items in an array, right? So we're sending test bagel 2 and we're sending sugar stuff here. So that one up here actually. So we're having sort of an issue. And that's where the instance of operator can actually help us. So we're going to set up some logic in our mutation that says if we're sending in an array, and we're going to use the instance of array, then if this is true, then you're going to do a specific thing, and if it's not true, then we're not going to use it. But we're going to use this to control the data we receive in our store as well. So let's leave this for now and come back to it later. So switch to your store. Oops, sorry, my mouse go. There we go. Switch to your store, and in the mutation we're going to create our the new mutation. We would call it. We called it add basket items. So let's add this here, and as they stated on the page here, we put in a state and we put in the name of the payload we want to send. So parentheses, and then we have state, and the payload is this basket, right? Oh, sorry, not this basket. Basket items. That's the one we have up here. So this is the one we want, and then we use the arrow notation, the function arrow notation. Why is it looking like this? It's not supposed to. Did I forget something? So ending there, right? I did an error somewhere. Oh, I forgot to do that one. So the colon here after the name, that's why mine was red. And in this one, we're going to set up a loop. So we're going to loop through the items we have. So you saw we had an array before, and then we're going to do that now. So basket items, and for each item in that one with a capital E, we're going to store the first one called item and use the feather notation to create a function. And in this one, we're going to basically check to see if the item exists in the array. Then we don't want to print out more of them, right? So only increment the number, but we already have that created in our menu. So let's go in here and grab from where the if statement states to where it ends. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines for me. Remember the end closing bracket here. Copy this and paste this in here. So we copy basically what we have here. And then after the if statement, there we go. We will check. Oh, I actually forgot something. We actually need to do a if statement around this before. So let's just go to the top before I forget, and let's just mark all of this line here and just do an indent, and here let's do our if. So as I mentioned, we need an if statement to control all our data, to check if it's an instance of array. So if the basket item with an S is an instance of array, if this, array, if this is true, then you're going to do all of these things. So we need to also close this. So grab the closing bracket here and go past the else and paste it in. So that's what we want. This is the code we want for now. So let's hit save. This will still give us some errors, but we'll fix those. So if we click this, we have a different error. So well, there's nothing called basket, but it still adds stuff over here, right? But if I do this, this doesn't work as it did previously before I started making all these changes, and now the dollars is gone and everything. So let's go through some of the errors. The first thing it tells me is the basket is undefined, and that's true because in our menu we removed it up here, if you remember, to grab the information from our view store instead. So let's just do this and let's change the name here. So I'm going to call this basket dump because it's only going to be used for each time we click something and add to it, and then it removes. It should empty this one and then go for the next one if you click it, right? So we're going to name change basket up here and activate it again. So we need to go through down here where we have basket. So instead of doing a this to basket that doesn't exist, we're going to do the basket dump instead. Same with this one and same with this one. So we're just pasting this in. So let's do this and save, and let's see the next error we get, because we will get more errors. So we still have a property with the basket is not undefined, but it's not in this one actually, it's inside our store, because we are still trying to check on the basket item here, but that's not true anymore, because what we want to do is we don't want to check this basket because that doesn't exist in here. We want to use state, so that one up here, dot basket, what's it called, items instead. So grab this information state dot, oh God, my mouse won't do it, and all the way to state, and find where you have this basket and just push this over. Whoops, without the T at the end. So that's 3 for me, I think. Let's check. Yes, that's only 3 for me. So let's do and see what we have now. So do we still have some errors? If we click this, yes, we have some errors. So we can actually add it now, if you can see. So I can add the items, but and I can also do this, but if I add another one, we have an error over here. So increase quantity is undefined. We're trying to call a function here that doesn't exist in this one. It exists in menu here, right? Where to go? Increase quantity. So we're just going to copy the item.quantity ++, and instead of having this here, we're just going to punch this in here. So it will increase the quantity here. Cool, let's try and save this, so we'll see what happens next. We still have sort of an error, because right now it's duplicating, and it actually should give me an error, but maybe it will later. So I'll leave this for now and fix this later, if it comes up, of course. But right now, I'm going to refresh the page. So I'm going to add this one here, right? This says 1 now. I can do 2, boom. And if I do this, it says 4. That's not right. 7, now it's adding. Now it's going to go 11. And then it's going to go 15, I think 16, because it's already adding. And if I click test bake, it's going to add one of these and a lot to the test bake, because it's storing the information I already sent in the dump basket, right, in our menu here. So that's what's happening. That's why you see this crazy stuff. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's actually adding them for each time we go through it. So what we want to do after our console log, and we don't really need that anymore, so let's just remove this because we can see the data is there. what we want to do is we want to tell the system for each time it's done with the basket dump, we're going to empty this. So for each time we do a commit, once the commit, don't put this, I can actually show you after, but now let's do this. And let's click save, and let's click refresh, and click the button, and click it again. So now it actually adds to this one here. But we still have an issue with the number here. That's because this one up here doesn't have an item and value item, right? And that's what I wanted to go to before, because up here in the test one we don't have quantity up here. So let's just add 1 to the basket item. And I forgot to do, oh, it's not like, sorry, no semicolon on that one. So let's do this again, and now we should have our number, and we can now add things to our thing again, and we can still remove and so on and so on. So that's cool. The thing I wanted to mention here is if you move this up before the commit, then the basket will be empty before you actually commit it. So this shouldn't do anything. I hope it doesn't. So now we can't add anything because we're actually emptying the dump that we're using to send the information. Our payload is empty before we actually send it. So make sure this is the last part of your method that controls the mutation here. So that's how we're setting up. So now this is actually instead of just being stored locally inside the component, we're now storing these things over here. They are now part of the Vuex store instead, and we're using mutation to do this. Cool. So see you in the next video.